Alright, so I thought I'd make a quick follow-up video just on adding in a couple extra little details. So again, we noticed that there's a little bit of chunkiness going on, so I'm just going to go in and kind of smooth over some of those areas. Now with the legs, you're not going to ever see them, they're under the pants, but I'm just going to do a once over anyway. Maybe just smooth this out a bit. This would be probably better done on a lower level, just a bit easier there. Cool. You don't have to be at the maximum level when you're doing this. And I just want to smooth out any of those little lumpy bumps and stuff like that. No, it's not coming out, but that's okay. Alright, next thing I want to do is look at maybe doing some fingernails, and not necessarily using, let's see, what do we got here? A little bit junky in there. That's okay. I'm not going to do UVs again. I'll just leave it for now. Let's say I wanted to do some fingernails. Yeah, so I mean, I should have probably did a closer once over and clean some of this up just a bit. But again, at this point, I'm not going to. So fingernails. What I would do is I'd go over to a different subtool, and I'm going to create a plane. I think I'm going to create a vector displacement brush. So basically I want to just create one fingernail and then just add it to each finger really quickly. So basically I'm doing the fingernail once and then creating a map from that, a vector displacement map that I can then use, and I could use it on other future projects as well if it turns out well enough. So let me just go and insert a plane. So plane, hide the cylinder, and I'm just going to subdivide this plane a few times. So 1, 2, 3, maybe get up to, you know, closer to 1,000,000. That's pretty cool. And this is what I'm going to draw the fingernail on, essentially. So the key with this is just make sure you don't go out to the outer edge, and just so that I can always kind of get back to the shape, I'm going to create what's called a morph target. So morph target basically will allow you to store this shape, and then I can use the morph brush like an eraser in case any of this edging accidentally gets shifted around. So again, for vector displacement, we want to make sure we're not using perspective, so ortho. And when we create this, eventually it's going to be flat to camera, and this outer edge needs to be perfectly the way it is now, so unmoved. Otherwise you get a bit of a seam when you use this. Alright, so let me just go and create I'll start off by creating a fingernail shape, I guess. However that looks, I should maybe look at my own fingernails just a little bit. And for this, maybe it's probably better to use a lasso brush. I'm going to try to go as in the middle of this as possible. Oh, let's see. Symmetry. Turn symmetry on. Let's try it one more time. 4th time's a charm. That's pretty good. Cool. Alright, so I got my fingernail shape. I'm going to reverse the mask. I'm just going to start rounding it out. So it's a little bit more raised in the middle than it is on the ends. Maybe I'll start with my move brush. I'm just going to move this up a little bit like this. So maybe just smooth it out on the edges just a little bit here. And I can maybe use my H polish to bring it down even more on the edges. Not so much on the top. I'm just kind of smooth that out. Cool. Just so I have kind of that fingernail shape. Cool. And now I just want to do a couple things like the cuticle and a few other things that would be around there. So let me go to my clay buildup, and I'm just going to kind of bring up the skin just around this, just a little bit, smooth it out a little bit as I go, and just a little bit of a cuticle here, whatever that might look like. You know, it can be a bit more stylized. You don't need a cuticle perhaps, but and damp center just to add in and push the details just a bit. Now there's a vector displacement brush, so I could push this in a little bit underneath, and it will kind of respect that. Add a couple of ridgy bits, and polish over that. Cool. So let's say I'm happy with this. And I don't really know how it'll turn out just yet, so let's put it on and find out. So next thing we need to do is create a brush out of this. So to do that, I'm going to go into this brush here called Chisel 3D, which already has some vector displacements on it. And I'm not going to use this. There's like an ear and stuff like that. There's a nose. You know, you want to create your own in the beginning just so that you have practice doing it. But I do want this brush. So I'm just going to click on this, and actually I'm going to go to brushes. I'm going to clone that brush. So clone. So now I've got a duplicate, and I just want to remove these meshes here just so I have my new stuff. So let me select this first one, and I'm just going to go through and delete these. So I think I have that option here under create. So I have a delete mesh, and it's just going to go through all of those and just remove those. And this is in the clone, remember, not the original. Okay. Alright, so that's been removed. And now I want to make sure I've got my perspective off. This is flat to camera, right? So it's perfectly flat to camera. I'm going to create a mesh or a brush out of this. So to do that, under my create, just click on this from mesh. I'm on the right brush here, from mesh. And there we go. That was it. Now we've got this fingernail brush we can go in and add in some fingernails with, if we're happy with the result. So I'm going to save this brush because, you know, I might want to add more stuff to it, which I think I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do like a knuckle brush as well, maybe, like just where you have like the creasing of the finger knuckles. So maybe I'll do one more brush, but let me just save this first. So under brush, save as, just make sure you're putting it in a place where you know where it is, and I'll call it VDM. Hand VDM for vector displacement map. All right, so let's do one more. So again, I'm going to create another plane. So insert plane 3D. There you are. Hide that guy. Got this guy. So smooth it a couple times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to 1,000,000. Sure. And again, store morph target. And I'm going to use the clay buildup just to add in kind of like your finger kind of knuckle pattern there, just in the middle. And use my damn standard. I'm just going to go in and kind of solidify. Usually, let's see, there's usually about maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like 4 or 5 thicker ones. And a couple little thin ones. You know, you can be as detailed or stylized as you want. I don't want to go any further than this, maybe. All right, so I got that. I've got my vector displacement brush that I created. There's my hand VDM. I'm just going to add to this. So again, I'm going to create that. So from mesh, cool. Now we got this guy. We can add into our knuckles. Now that's a little bit too much. Maybe I'll create another version of this where it's a little bit more kind of smoothed up a bit. And this is where I could maybe use the Morph Target brush. So morph, right here. And maybe erase some of this down a bit. I'm just going to use a lower intensity morph. So it kind of flattens it down just a bit, maybe it brings it down. And let me just go to my damn standard. I'll just go in and push this just a little bit more here in some spots. So a little bit more stylized. Alright, so let's say that's good. And I can do it again. So just go back over to my skin. And just, again, make sure I'm flat to camera. And create from mesh. So now I've got two. So I got this guy. I've got this guy. And I've got this guy. Alright. So let's go back over to, let me save it one more time. So brush, save. And I'll just replace it. Okay. Let's go back over to our file with our character. This isn't the one though. Let's see this one right here. There we are. And right now I've got 700,000 polys. I don't really know if that's enough or not. So let me see if that is. I'm going to start by using the fingernail. Well, that's cool. It even does a color change too, which is actually good. I'm going to want a little bit of that. I'm going to go a little bit lighter. So I just want to make sure I'm kind of putting it in the right spot. That was a little bit too pixelated, which it kind of is a little bit. I'm going to smooth this one more time. It's 2 million polys. That's probably okay. Cool. All right, and then I can maybe just color around that and just clean it up just a bit. Much faster though than going in from scratch. Move this in, just flatten it up just a bit. Whoopsie. Went right through to the other side. Well, that's no good now, is it? He's got fingernails on both sides of his fingers. So let me undo. And what I'm going to do is same thing. I'm going to do it again. So make sure I'm on the right brush. But this time I'm going to make sure I go under auto masking. I'm going to turn on back face mask, so that way it's only going to do it on the front face here. And again, I just want to change the color a little bit. Just getting it at the right angle is the tricky part. Cool. And yeah, I can just go in and just clean that up just a smidge. Maybe push in the ends of the fingers a bit. Cool. So yeah, it's just a matter of tweaking the fingertips just a smidge, and maybe pulling these out a little bit more. Alright, that's pretty fast. And then the thumb. I probably want to add one to the thumb too, just to be consistent. Cool. And maybe not quite so far to the end. Alright. And same thing, right? I just want to probably tweak the shape a bit. Cool. And then what I can do too is the knuckles. So let's switch over to the knuckles. And for these, I don't need to change the color on those. Let me just make sure it's the same color. Right, and if I wanted more, I should have done this maybe earlier, but you know, if I wanted a little bit more clear, then I could just up the res one more time. Cool. Cool, that's pretty much it. And then everything else is very similar to what we did before. Alright, so I'm going to end that there, and good luck with everything.